Living on the road, waterways or off-grid in the UK, Dickie Dread. And today we're moving on to chapter 6, parties, gatherings, raves and festivals. And first of all, I'll give you a little introduction to the chapter. So the laws around noise, parties, raves and festivals are messy, layered and often poorly understood. Different bits of legislation overlap: public order, licensing, environmental protection and planning, and how they apply depends heavily on the specifics: where you are, how many people turn up, how long it runs and how visible it becomes. For those on the water, the same overlapping system exists, but with an added layer of navigation authority control. Canals, rivers and harbours bring their own rules alongside the general law. Raves and larger gatherings are primarily dealt with under public order law, while noise itself sits under environmental legislation. On top of that, licensing rules kick in if alcohol is sold or entertainment is formally organised, and planning law can come into play if events become repeated or established. In practice, it is rarely one single rule that catches people out, but the combination of them. Most travellers, off-gridders, don't sit down and read this stuff. And fair enough, but the reality is that enforcement tends to be situation driven. A quiet one-night gathering in the right place may pass unnoticed, while the same setup in a different context may bring police, council officers and follow-up action. Timing, location and visibility matter as much as the law itself. I'll set out the legal framework first, then add some practical guidance based on experience. And yes, I'm often the noisiest bugger on site. So, we're now on part 45 in the video series, and chapter 6, parties, gatherings, raves and festivals. So most people think that if a party is private and it happens on your own land, what you do is largely your own business. That's only really half the story. Noise, alcohol, entertainment, drugs, safety and even planning law can all become relevant, and calling something a private party does not make those rules disappear. So this is the first part in chapter 6, and today we're going to look at the regulations surrounding private parties, what can turn an ordinary gathering into a regulated event, and where people can unexpectedly get caught out. So, regulations on private parties. In the UK, hosting a private party is generally permitted, but there are legal considerations and regulations to be aware of. These depend on factors such as location, including land, vehicles or boats, number of attendees, and what actually happens at the event. It is not the word party that matters in law, but the activities, scale and impact. Here are some key things to consider. Noise regulations. See the next sections on raves and noise. The same underlying rules apply. If the noise amounts to a statutory nuisance under the Environmental Protection Act 1990, the council can act regardless of whether the event is private. Serving alcohol. If you are genuinely giving alcohol away for free, you generally do not need a licence. However, if alcohol is included in a ticket price, donation or entry fee, this is usually treated as a sale in law. Selling alcohol. If you plan to sell alcohol, including indirectly, you will need either a premises licence or what's called a temporary event notice, or a 10. You've probably heard people talking about those for years. I thought we were talking about the number 10. Under the Licences Act 2003, 10 limits. A 10 allows licensing activities for up to 168 hours, 7 days, and a maximum of 499 people, including the staff. There are also limits on how many 10s can be used per year, per person and per site, so it is not an unlimited workaround. Private property. Hosting on your own land gives you more control, but it does not override the law. Noise nuisance, licensing breaches and even planning issues can still arise. Trust me. Hired venues. If you are using a rented venue, you must comply with the conditions set out by the owner and any existing licence. These often include strict limits on noise levels, capacity and hours. Fire safety. You have a duty of care. Exits must be accessible, fire risks managed and numbers kept within safe limits. This becomes more important as events grow, and of course recently there's been a lot of dry weather, so a lot of festivals and parties etc. saying no fires. First aid. For anything beyond a small gathering, having basic first aid provision is sensible and increasingly expected. Drugs. Under the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971, you can commit an offence if you knowingly permit the use or supply of controlled drugs on premises you control. This is about awareness and tolerance, not just presence. So we've got a whole chapter on drugs coming up soon. Illegal activities. You may also face consequences if other offences occur, such as underage drinking, violence or disorder, particularly if you are seen to have allowed it. Licensing triggers. You need permission, 10, or a licence, if your event includes a licence for activities such as selling alcohol, providing regulated entertainment, live or recorded music to the public, or late night refreshment. Public liability. For larger parties, especially where the public are invited, insurance is often essential to cover injury or damage. Planning issues. A one-off private gathering is unlikely to trigger planning enforcement, but repeated or organised events can be treated as a material change of use under the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. This is where people get caught over time. COVID-19 or other restrictions. There are no standing restrictions as of 2026, but emergency public health powers can return quickly, so it's always worth checking current guidance. And lastly, boats and moorings. Gatherings on boats are still subject to the same noise, licensing and public order laws, but may also fall under the rules of the relevant navigational authority, such as the Canal and River Trust or marina operators. So a private party is generally perfectly lawful, but being private does not place it outside licensing, noise, safety, drugs or planning law. If you're trying to live differently, this isn't just about having a few people around for a party. It's about understanding how the system works and discovering before you discover the hard way, as we keep saying. In the next video, we'll look at hosting events on your own land before moving on to the particular issues involved in hosting events on boats and waterways.